Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome to the intersection of faith and the culture. It's WallBuilders Live, and we're talking about today's hottest topics, policy, faith, all the things affecting our culture, including the COVID crackdown and all the other things happening right now. So many folks at home, so many folks trying to figure out what to do in the midst of all this. It truly is maybe the greatest crisis of our lifetime, not necessarily because of the virus by itself. I think we're going to find it at this point to not be anywhere near as bad as what everybody was afraid of a few months ago. But at the same time, the government reaction to it has created the greatest economic crisis of our lifetime for sure. So combined, yes, greatest crisis of our lifetime. So we need to look at a biblical, historical, and constitutional perspective even on this current situation. How are we to respond as citizens? How are we to respond as biblical citizens that have a biblical worldview? So that's what WallBuilders Live is all about throughout the year in all situations. How do you apply a biblical worldview to the issues of our day, whatever those hot topics may be? And David Barton is America's premier historian, and he's our founder here at WallBuilders. Tim Barton's a national speaker and pastor and president of WallBuilders. And my name is Rick Green. I'm a former Texas legislator and America's Constitution coach. And we look forward to these topics because it's actually interesting to us to look back at the historical context and find out, what does history teach us about situations like this? We're diving into the Constitution and saying, what does the Constitution actually say that government's role should be in these things? And certainly the biblical perspective of how do you have peace in these times? How do you have joy through tribulations like this? And how do you make sure that you don't have a spirit of fear? I mean, all of those things are what we're looking at here on WallBuilders Live. All right, David, Tim, later in the program, Brad Dacus will be with us from Pacific Justice Institute, one of those great organizations that represents churches and individuals on religious liberty and other constitutional issues across the country. They do it for free. It's amazing. Love what they do. Good work. But we're going to be talking about how churches and private schools and others can respond to the crisis, whether or not they should be trying to get, tap into some of the CARES Act finances, and just frankly how the church, kind of a theme this week, really, how the church can step up this during this crisis and serve their community in need.
Yeah, it is a theme this week because the church has been having to do that for the last several weeks. This is the first Easter we have on record where the churches were not congregating as normal. We covered last week how that there have been other pandemics where the churches were shut down for periods of time, but this is the first time that we've had it at Easter, so this is a new thing for churches.
Well, and even with the earlier pandemics, generally the shutdowns were related to specific areas where that was under control, really the authority of the state and really more of cities or counties at that point. So we haven't seen a national shutdown really ever in the history of America with some of these pandemics. So that certainly is a unique thing. And as churches are having to navigate how to do this, we've had several different conversations over the last couple of weeks about churches having to navigate through this and what's constitutional. And Rick, we've mentioned that you had done several videos covering some of what is constitutional, what's not constitutional in the midst of the quarantines and how that works. But I got a message just over this last weekend where we had some friends in a church in Texas who were going to do drive-in church, and the judge said, you're not allowed to do that. And this pastor pushed back and said, now, wait a second. Governor Abbott said...
in this case, it's a county judge. It's not like a federal judge or a judicial judge.
Correct. It was a county judge.
It's an elected county judge.
And so this pastor pushed back and said, now, wait a second. Governor Abbott said that churches are essential and we're doing drive-in, so people aren't getting out. So we're still supposed to be able to meet. We're still following CDC guidelines. And the judge said, nope, it's not safe. If you show up, we're fining everybody. And so sometimes we hear these stories in other states. But again, all three of us being in Texas, we often think that Texas is a different state. We see more kind of conservative positions, things that aren't always the norm when it looks to some of the liberal policies from liberal judges. And yet there still is some of that in some places in Texas. And so churches have had to navigate through some tough waters, but certainly we see them stepping up in other areas, having to get outside their four walls. So in the midst of this crisis, there is some good coming, even though there's a lot of fights on the horizon.
Well, I don't think it's even done with that yet, because I think when this thing is all over and done with, there's going to be, and quite frankly, just looking to the election in the fall, if I'm sitting just as an observer on political elections, I think the only place the Democrats really have to go with this is the government didn't do enough. that they're going to have to say we need more government. Government should have done more, should have stepped in sooner, should have stepped in bigger. And so I think we'll have a debate even over what government's going to do in the future.
Well, and the more they keep people from being able to go to work, the more that there's an economic shutdown, the more people are in need, the more that jobless claims increase and unemployment increases, then there's more perhaps listening ears to some of that conversation of the government should help you, the government can do this, forgetting the very fact that the government was the one that inflicted this pain on you in the first place, right? On some levels, right, questionable how this quarantine goes, because now you're hearing a lot more voices that are saying that the best thing that you can do is have herd immunity. And herd immunity happens when the young and healthy are out continuing normal life, let them continue in the workforce. And maybe it is more of the elderly that need to be quarantined for 4, 5, or 6 weeks until herd immunity has been built and this thing is really kind of dwindled down in the young and healthy, and then it doesn't impact the elderly. Now, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just hearing a lot more of that conversation, which is very interesting because it's in distinct contrast to what the federal government and even state governments have done.
Well, with that, you look at what Bill Gates has done last week. He said, well, what we need now is we need to know who's receiving immunization because he believes one's coming. And so he says there needs to be a chip embedded in children that have the immunization to say that you can scan and read and say, yep, I've been immunized against corona. Well, that's going to be a big fight all by itself. Who's going to put a chip in kids, and do we want a chip in kids, and is it one the government can read? And so it's going to get into parental rights as well, because this is more of the big government stuff, and so government needs to know whether you've been immunized. And I mean, this, and by the way, this is where Brad Dacus would be really, really good, because one of the things his law firm, Pacific Justice Institute, really focuses on is parental rights. And I guarantee you that that's going to be a huge parental rights debate. Do I want the government taking my kids and implanting chips in them, and who knows what's on that chip? You know, that's gonna go on and on. So I think that as this thing starts to simmer down and slow down, and we come out on the other side, you're going to have a big debate over what is the role of government, and where do parents fit in, and where do churches fit in, and what's private and what's public. I mean, it's going to be a big debate, and this is where Brad Dacus can help us navigate that.
We're going to have Brad when we come back from the break. I'm just sitting here listening to you guys, and I feel like I should have some Twilight Zone music playing in the background. Churches being threatened. In fact, this weekend, many churches were fined, ticketed, churchgoers for sitting in their car at a drive-in church service where they couldn't possibly get anybody else sick. I mean, how far we've gone with this thing. It's just, chips and kids. I really do need some Twilight music. It's just unbelievable. I never thought I would say this, but let's just keep watching the Swedes. I mean, they're saying, hey, we're going about life as normal, and it looks like it's affecting them the exact same as everybody else. So we may have gone to all of this for naught. We could have done what the Swedes did, not destroyed the economy, and still had basically the same percentages. But we'll see. Hindsight will be 20/20 in another year. Let's take a quick break. Brad Dacus when we return on WallBuilders Live. Many of you out there are under stay-at-home orders by your governor or your local health officials, and maybe you're looking for something to do during this time. One of the most important things you can do as a citizen is to make sure that you know your rights, you know when they've been violated, and you're the better prepared to defend and assert them. To do that, you've got to study the Constitution and the history behind it. Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green does exactly that. We take you into the WallBuilders Library, we bring all those resources to life, and then we go out to Philadelphia to Independence Hall, and right there in the room where the Constitution and the Declaration were put together, we bring it to life, we relive it, and we make sure that we as citizens know what our part is in preserving these freedoms for future generations. At this time in our nation, it is so important to know the proper role of government and what we as citizens should be doing at this time. If you haven't done Constitution Alive, check it out at wallbuilders.com. You can get the DVD set there. We'll get it out in the mail to you as soon as we can, and you can study it at home, or you can go to constitutioncoach.com and become a Constitution Coach today. We've got a free license for you right now where you can sign up as a Constitution host and be the catalyst in your community to bring back these biblical and historical and constitutional values. And what you do is you sign up as a host, and then you get your friends and family together on Zoom. We coach you on how to do it, and you're able to create community and also study the Constitution at the same time. Do this, and we will be able to pick up the pieces on the other side of this crisis and rebuild our nation even stronger than it was before. Check it out today at constitutioncoach.com. Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. Thanks for staying with us today. Brad Dacus from Pacific Justice Institute back with us. Been way too long, Brad. Thanks for coming on, man.
Always a pleasure, Rick. Thank you.
We had to create this national crisis so that you would be locked in your home and have time to come on WallBuilders Live. All of that, just so we could get Brad Dacus back on WallBuilders Live.
Yeah.
No, man, we miss you, brother. We love what you do, and just appreciate you coming back on the program. And now, listen, you're reaching out and you're helping churches and folks right now know how to navigate and maneuver through a lot of this stuff. So we want to talk a little bit about that, but also just get an update on some of the projects you're working on for this upcoming year and equipping pastors and churches to really be salt and light in the community again. So we got a lot to cover in a short period of time.
Yeah.
What you want to hit first, bro?
Well, first, I want to hit the new resources that we have available online to help churches obtain financial relief through the new CARES Act. There's five different segments to that bites at the apple, if you will, that churches could take advantage of. Many of them don't even realize that they can do that. Some say, "Oh, yeah, there's one program." No, there's actually five potential programs, depending on their situation. So, what we've done is we have a program that they can listen to. It's an audio program on our website at pacificjustice.org, where they can hear all about this from an expert attorney in finance law with a lot of expertise, plus some written resources that's extremely helpful.
And when you say they, Brad, when you say they, let's categorize. This is business leaders, church leaders, Christian school leaders. There's a lot of people that need to hear this.
Exactly. And it's for all three groups. So business leaders, private school leaders, and then church leaders. And they can listen to. We have actually three. It's on there, so they can listen to these. They can get all the information. Then we have all the written material, the Q&As. We make it very easy at Pacific Justice Institute on our website for ministries to take advantage of this. And the window is not going to be open much longer.
That's right.
So this is not something they can wait 1 or 2 months to do. They need to move on it immediately. And we're very excited and feel privileged to be able to help the body of Christ in such a very tangible way.
And Brad, I mean, they definitely need to go and listen to the full thing. But can you give us just a quick answer to, should I take government money in this case? Will it endanger my religious liberty at all? Because I think that's probably the main question on the minds of these leaders that we want to go listen to this call.
Yeah, there's longer term loans that they can get, and there's also shorter ones, which is just really for the next 2.5 months. But we're looked at, we've scrutinized it, and this President Trump, has put this together in a way that is very solid, very concrete. I know Tony Perkins people were working with this. So the answer is no. There's no concerns at this time for this program, but it's a question that we all should be asking whenever we get involved with receiving aid or assistance in any way, shape, or form from the government. We need to, I say, pray with one eye open
Right.
when dealing with these kind of programs involving the government. It can be a trap door, and we understand that at Pacific Justice Institute.
I like that, Brad. Pray with one eye open, no doubt about it. And I think even just the initial hurdle in my mind initially, when because typically I'd say they shouldn't be doing bailouts, and we should. This is not a bailout. This is literally paying damages to the organizations that are being incredibly hurt. I mean, we've got a nonprofit that'll we'll lose hundreds of thousands of dollars because of donations and because of events that aren't going to happen and all that. And so that's what this is designed to help. Everybody's in that situation across the country. And Brad, if the church and Christian companies and nonprofits, conservative nonprofits, don't participate in this, you're talking about a massive shift of wealth from the right to the left, because we'll pay for it through our taxes. And if only, say progressive organizations take the money, they'll come out of this strong. We'll come out of it weak. Not a good situation. I'm with you. I think we need to be encouraging churches, encouraging Christian schools to get the help they need in this situation. That's why we're doing this.
Yes. And also, we have another resource on our website. It's called our Legal Insider. So if churches want to be kept up to date with what's going on with these opportunities, and other individuals too, for that matter, in businesses, they need to definitely go to our website, pacificjustice.org, and sign up to get our Legal Insider updates. It's very valuable, particularly in times like this. And I know also there's a lot of concerns dealing with the restrictions on churches about being able to meet, and can they even have people drive by the church to stay in their car and pick up an Easter basket or not? Can a church do videotaping? we're dealing with some of those issues with some heavy-handed counties in California. We've actually addressed that as well, Rick, on our website with a breakdown of more than 20 states, specific legal memorandums on the different mandates and restrictions for each of those states on churches and ministries. And we really want to empower churches so that they understand what they can do, and we're updating it regularly so that churches can be to know what their rights are, and at the same time be in full compliance with the laws that God wants us to comply with, but also, like I say, know what their rights are so they don't aren't pushed around any more than they need to that the Constitution will allow. So,
what an incredibly valuable service, Brad. That is so needed, man. I mean, we get calls and emails every day of people, can we do this? Should we do this? How far do we go? How do we obey the law and at the same time still honor God in these things? So thank you for putting that guidance together and making it available to people. And so right now, I mean, people can go to the website, pacificjustice.org, get that information, listen to that audio, get signed up for the emails. I can't thank you enough, Brad. You guys do incredible work all the time. I mean, throughout the year, you're representing people and protecting religious liberty and so many other areas of constitutional rights as well. But at this moment in time, in our nation's history, when so many people are just wondering what to do, you guys have really stepped up and provided some incredible answers. So bless you, brother. Thank you for doing that.
Well, I appreciate it, Rick. We have, right now as we speak, before all this happened, we had already had 47 cases in active litigation across the United States defending religious freedom, parental rights, the sanctity of human life. We've got hundreds of affiliate attorneys all across the United States. We do all our work without charge. And one thing that makes us unique, Rick, is that we don't just cherry-pick high-profile cases. We work hard to make sure that no one is left on the side of the road, that no one's turned away if it falls in our mission statement and our expertise. And we pick up all the costs. We do it all without any fees at all.
Incredible.
And it's a real privilege to serve the body of Christ. This is a unique way that's come up with regard to this new federal program, and then also with the new challenges with churches. We're really working hard to give them all the resources they could possibly need. A new resource we also have, Rick, real quickly, is a training video on how to have a church service online via Facebook or YouTube. We make that real easy. So a pastor who knows nothing about computers at all, a little church out there in the foothills of wherever, they will be able to do it. And our website, we make it real easy to understand. And we're also working hard right now to distribute in the very near future a video on the sex education that's now it's going to be coming throughout. It's already going to 17 cities outside of California. It is horrific, all the way down to the kindergarten level. And that's a whole nother topic. But along with that, we're introducing a program to help churches have their own church homeschool co-ops to encourage and enable churches how easy it is for them to have homeschooling in their church. And what a great outreach that is right now with so many families experimenting with homeschooling, whether they like it or not. At the same time, we have this horrific sex education, outrageous material going forth. It's a great opportunity for churches to take advantage of that as well. We're willing to serve them in that capacity also.
Yeah, Lord willing, as much of a challenge as I know it is for a lot of these families that have been thrust into homeschooling and didn't have time to think about it or plan for it, hopefully one of the things that will come out of it is they'll realize what a blessing it is to have their kids for that much of the day and enjoy them and to be the main influence on them and in their education as well as the rest of their life. So hopefully there'll be more people looking for that tool. So I'm glad you guys have that available as well. Brad, I can't help it. You didn't ask me to do this. I want our listeners to know this, but I just listen to all this stuff you're doing. And when people go to the website, pacificjustice.org, in the top right-hand corner, red button there says donate. Got a little flag. It's easy to find. Go click on that button. I know it's tough right now. Everybody's financially strapped right now. Give a few bucks if you can. Take some of what you're going to get in your check from the government in the next month or so and just invest in freedom. Pacific Justice Institute is out there defending that freedom. And Brad, we're going to have to do this again as we come out of this Lord willing, in another month or so at the latest. But this summer and in the fall, we got to talk elections. You guys are doing a lot to equip pastors to speak on that, doing it in a constitutional way, obviously, and talk about biblical citizenship and voting and doing voter registration drives. Y'all are already working on some big efforts on that, and that's going to be what makes us stronger on the other side of this instead of weaker.
Yeah, well, I'm very optimistic, and you're right. We're working very aggressively. It's a whole other campaign to talk about, but we're really excited about that, and I really appreciate your heart, Rick, and helping get this information out there. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Brad Dacus, pacificjustice.org is the website. All of those different tools that we talked about. We'll make it easy for you today. We'll have a link at wallbuilderslive.com. Always good to have you, brother. Look forward to having you back soon. We'll talk about the voter registration drives and the other efforts that people can get involved in. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back with David and Tim Barton. Hey, friends, it's Rick Green from WallBuilders Live, and I have had so many requests about what in the world can we be studying at home right now. You know, I got the kids at home. They're normally in school, or if you homeschool, you're looking for additional material. One Room Schoolhouse. It is a great new series WallBuilders is putting out where you literally get a tour of the WallBuilders Library as Tim Barton and Jonathan Ritchie bring history to life. There's a couple of resources on this. You can go to YouTube and search for WallBuilders and look for One Room Schoolhouse. You can go to our Facebook page and get it right there on Facebook as we do it live each Monday and sometimes additional days from there. And then you can also just go to wallbuilders.com. Scroll down to the bottom and we'll be posting the videos as they come out. This is such a great way to learn and a great way for you to share with others. Gather the family around, watch the One Room Schoolhouse, and learn some great history. It'll be vitally important to restoring our nation and bringing back these principles that made America great in the first place. Check it out, One Room Schoolhouse at wallbuilders.com. Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. Special thanks to Brad Dacus for joining us today, Pacific Justice Institute. We're back with David and Tim Barton. So, guys, look, I mean, I'm so glad he's on top of this. And, of course, the recording of that call they had last week advising, churches, business leaders, private schools. I mean, really anybody that needs to kind of get some advice on how to navigate this whole thing can get that recording today. And we'll have a link today at wallbuilderslive.com for folks as well. Man, it just seems like we're the churches. I know most authorities are not singling out churches, but man, the stories are coming in from all over the country where churches do seem to be getting special, meaning a negative special treatment on this. What was the guy was it Louisville mayor that said, no worshiping? We're not going to have any worshiping on Easter Sunday. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's something that our friends over at First Liberty, Kelly Shackelford, I mean, us three, we know about this, but the victory that came down where a judge stepped in and really slapped down the mayor, said, no, you can't do that.
And by the way, let me emphasize the word slap down. This was a temporary restraining order, and he had a big opinion in it, and he let his opinion be known, which is really unusual for a temporary restraining order. He did slap down the mayor.
Yeah, and this case is gonna come back to court, and so there's going to be more unfolding to this. Nonetheless, there was this.
And
injunction.
Kelly will be with us Friday, by the way. So we got Kelly Shackelford coming up in a couple of days with details on that one as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, so we'll be able to cover all this then. I guess part of Good News Friday, hearing the good news coming down from this judge stepping in defending churches, but in the midst of this navigating what churches are doing and how things are going, it is an unusual time. One of the things I love that Brad pointed out, though, is that this is such a good opportunity for churches to be part of the solution for the craziness, the crisis in culture. And one of the solutions could be looking at every church having a homeschool co-op in their church. One of the things that certainly over the last decades, there's been a movement to get more kids out of the public system, not because there's not good public school teachers, not because there's not good people in administration, but because the system itself is so broken on so many areas. As even Brad was pointing out, if you look at the sex ed curriculum that's coming out, right? Some of these things that are just, it's ghastly, it almost unbelievable. And maybe for some it would be unbelievable. And this is where now that parents are in a situation where they're having to help navigate from home their children's education, this is a really good opportunity for churches to step up and say, hey, what can we do to help parents, to help kids? I know so many churches, right, that think about how can we help kids, how can we help parents? And one of the best ways right now, especially, it would seem like that churches can offer a really good solution is to say, hey, let's have 1 or 2 days a week, and maybe not right now specifically with this quarantine stuff, but in the future, this could be a good opportunity for churches to be able to promote instilling, again, those biblical values in kids, helping parents be the parents and raise up their children. That was a suggestion I thought this is a really, really good thought for especially where we are in culture.
And also when you look at the fact that we are going to have a transfer of wealth out of this, the fact that we're at $2 to $4 trillion that has been designated for economic relief, and it looks like that Congress is now moving forward with another $250 billion. To let that transfer occur only to the secular, non-religious community makes no sense at all. Churches really do need to participate in this thing.
Well, and we understand why people have not wanted to take government money for a lot of years, because you don't want the strings attached. But even as Brad points out, in this one, it doesn't seem like there's as many strings attached in some of these areas. So this is a really good opportunity for people to be able to get some of that money to help their churches. Even for us as a nonprofit, we're looking at some of that, because certainly it's impacted some of our income, because we can't travel and speak. We can't do the things that have enabled us to be able to fund the staff and be able to write the books. And so this is certainly something that churches ought to look into and see how they can get part of this to help them.
And as we've heard a lot of conservative commentators say over the last couple of weeks, in many ways, these finances are damages for the damage that's been done to businesses and schools and churches as a result of not the virus, but the government action in response to the virus. And it really is certainly justified. But actually, you raise a great point, Tim. Without the speaking engagements, without so many things, and with so many people being concerned and donations get smaller and that sort of thing, we really do have to ask today, those of you that have been donating to WallBuilders Live for years, we want to encourage you. If you still can, please do. And go to wallbuilderslive.com today and click on that donate button and make that contribution. It's very important right now to have truth out there in the culture. It's very important to have constitutional, biblical, historical perspective. So important in what's happening right now. So help our voice be heard, help multiply that voice, share those links. If for some reason you can't do your donation anymore, you can still get online and share on Facebook and all the social media tools that you have. And for those of you that can, please do. And maybe you've never donated before and you're in a position that you can. What an important time to share and come alongside us and help us get this voice out there. We appreciate you considering that today. Go to wallbuilderslive.com today. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided.